Alright, so the new regional season is in full swing, and today I have very cool and interesting deck lists for you guys, topping deck lists that we have to look at, and I'm sure you're gonna find some inspiration for decks that you may be building for this format. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like and let me know down in the comments what deck you're picking up for this meta. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we have the winner of German Open, and I think it's so hilarious that Tier Element won, just because we kind of wrote it off a bit. Some of us at least, but there are tier limit believers out there, so this person managed to win with a Horus tier limit. It's just fairly basic stuff when it comes to both engines. There's obviously no Guido and Kelbeck, we know this, but it's clean 40, and you have your tier names, obviously at 1, 3 Rhino, only 2 Fenrir, 1 Shayama, which I think is a really cool addition for this deck. And as for the fusions, it's just the basic ones. And we also have a Zombie Vampire, which is an amazing card that works so well with Horus cards. 2 King Sarcophagus in the main deck. And just let's talk about the effect of King Sarcophagus, the damage step effect. I think it's so good and underrated. It can catch you off guard 100%. And then there's also Toad and Bahamut, the little package. And of course, the mandatory SP Sprint and Dark as well. And as for the side deck, like usually decks with a lot of engine kind of have to play Impulse with Fire Attacker, and I just think it's such a neat addition, because what you want to do is you want to draw into your engine. Like, you don't have your hand traps and board breakers to draw into, that's what you want to go for. And then post side, obviously, you want to draw into your Nibiru, draw, super polymerization, and all of that. So yeah, I think it's a very clean list. Let's move on. Okay, look, on my tier list, I always talk trash about Invoked. Like, I don't know. I just do. I always say that it's not enough. However, I have garnered some respect for it. I think it's not a terrible deck. I think it can catch you off guard, but they kind of have to open the perfect hand. It's usually like that. They have to have a way to Alistair, as well as a way to your Dogmatica engine, and then some non-engine to sort of make it whole, if that makes sense. Like, if you're up against only one of the engines, and then you hit Alistair with like an Imperm or something, they might just pass. If they go off, it's not that easy to stop the deck. They have all of these hand traps to stop you. We obviously see Ash, Nibiru, Veiler. There's Bishtios, which act as hand traps as well. Super Polymerization, which can completely just stop your turn if you're a Fire King player, Rescue Ace. There's a lot of decks actually that lose to Super Polymerization right now. And yeah, there's the Fleur de Lis, Disruption during your turn if you're not careful about that. There's no Mekaba in the extra deck. I don't really know what's up with that. I would assume Mekaba is a good addition. There might be a mistake or something. I don't know. Mekaba is a really decent piece of negation. I just always say it's not enough. So if you have Mekaba backed up with a lot of non-engine and Fleur de Lis and all of that, then I think you should be fine. But also, like, these decks also sometimes play a Punishment, which is not a bad addition. You are locked though, so I understand why you also wouldn't play it. But yeah, I don't really know what to say. It kind of surprised me that this deck did well. I don't think there's that much power in it, but it's nice to see. So there's that. I spent a lot of time talking about this deck. It was really baffling to me. Okay, let's keep it going with a bit more of a basic deck. Sprite, Evo Twin, Runic managed to get first place at the Klagenfurt Regional. Really nice result, obviously, for a deck that wasn't exactly that popular lately. But yeah, it's just a very standard build. There is 6 spots for non-engine, and they decided to choose Ash and Impermanence. And then as for both of the engines, you usually would play these ratios, and all 3 of the engines actually, but the runic stuff is fairly basic. You need to play the top spells at 3, and then you can include like a Dispelling or something and a Smiting Storm, usually. And as for the side deck, I think the cool thing is the Rasfir mode, and we also see Pankratops a lot in side decks. I think it's gonna be a really, really important card in this format, so I'm really excited to see this card be a 2. I don't know, I think that's just really nice. There's also Talents, and I think we saw Talents in the previous list as well, if I'm not mistaken, which is obviously nice with all the hand traps being present in the format. So let us move on to another Klagenfurt regional list. Now this is second place Vanquish Soul. And Vanquish Soul is just one of these decks where it's always gonna top. Like there is going to be at least one Vanquish Soul player in Top Cut. It's just what's gonna happen. And the deck still obviously has consistency issues, but I feel like if you have a lucky event, which just means good hands, good matchups, you should be able to do fine, because if you have access to Ryzen, then you're good. You are not worrying. The issue is when you don't draw into it or see a way to it. But what the deck does overall is just really decent. It's able to completely outgrind you and keep on drawing cards, drawing into their hand traps, and just create a lot of advantage. But they need to, their initial plays have to go through. So it's gonna hurt them if they don't really open well enough and then get ashed on a small world or a prosperity or something like that. Another great thing about the deck is also Shifter. So obviously they have to run 3 copies in the main deck. If the deck can afford to run Shifter, I think you have to do it in today's format. It's really good against top decks that you're going to encounter. So I really like this edition. And as for the extra deck, my favorite thing is probably the inclusion of Zodiac cards with Zeus. Just overall Zodiac cards going into Zeus is just so amazing, but with the deck not being present in the meta, it's nice to see at least, you know, in a random extra deck. So yeah, another, I guess, important card to mention would be Soul Release, which is really nice against Fire Kings. However, Fire King players are developing ways of not losing to it that hard or playing around it. So you also have to keep that in mind as the meta progresses. Like some tech cards might fall off if players realize how to counter them. So yes, let's move on to Utah Regional winning deck list. Look, this is the Rescue Ace Fire King deck that Puck won with. I think it's so cool. I built it. I haven't tested it yet, but I'm super excited, obviously being a Rescue Ace player currently. I think it's just such a good idea because you don't want either of your engines to be disrupted, so you can just mash them together and be able to, with the help of Kirin, dodge some stuff. Or if one of your engines gets completely stopped, you have the other one to bridge into and go from there. So let's take a look at it. There's a smaller engine of 1 Ponix, 1 Garunix, but there are the 3 Kirin. There's also 1 Barong, because in the most basic combo, you want to pop Barong with Garunix to get Kirin in the standby phase. You're not doing any elaborate Fire King combos, but you can extend into different extra deck monsters, because usually extra decks right now, when it comes to fire decks, are going to be just toolbox completely. There's no other engines. So you can just do pretty much whatever you want. There's Hitso into Appaloosa if you want to go for that, or you want to just build a basic board of set 4, having a Kirin as well, which is really nice, and then the SP. So yes, I don't know, I'm a huge fan of this deck. I haven't tested it yet, like I said, but I'm super excited to do it, probably later today, hopefully. So let's move on to this pile, which I don't know where to begin. It's Horus, Danger, Orcust, Super Heavy Samurai, PK. If you're a fan of pile decks, PK and the likes, I think you're gonna have a lot of fun with this. So yeah, okay. The Super Heavy Samurai cards do clash with spells and traps, so that's something to keep in mind, but you still can utilize them to just use them as material pretty much. With your dangers, getting rid of Orcust cards, that's obviously something you want to do. And overall, we have seen PK Horus builds, also Orcust Horus builds, so we already know this goes together well. And essentially what you would be going for is having Dingirsu and Babo, obviously, which is such a... I hate Babel so much. I loved playing it, but hate playing against it. Topologic Bomber Dragon is really cool. But you would also be utilizing Bardiche. I'm 100% certain to get access to your Fogblade. And then there's a couple more Orcust cards, obviously, and the utility cards, SP, IP, Appaloosa also, if you find yourself in that situation. So I think it's an interesting deck. It's just that I don't know. I feel like it's able to actually bait hand traps really well because you have so many different engines, and the main issue would be like if you're trying to play Orcust, like your Girsu is gonna get stopped, you're just gonna pass maybe. But if you have like an engine to substitute that, if that makes sense, and to continue playing, I think it's really good. So yeah. As for going second, they decided to go for a lot of board breakers together with Thrust, which is also something that I like, and yeah, the 2 Pankratops, which is pretty much mandatory at this point. So staying on topic of Orcust, let's move on to Orcust Horus Runic. I think this deck is amazing. It's literally like what Orcust does by itself, the little Orcust combo, feels like it's not really enough. It feels like it's power crept, like it's not gonna be able to do anything. It's literally 1 crescendo, and also, I guess, Babo if you want, but it's not in this list. So what you want to have is an additional engine to keep you going, and what better engine to utilize than Runic? Like, I'm slowly becoming a Runic fan, I think, which I don't really know what to think of that, but yeah, it's so cool. So you're literally playing your Orcust combo, but you have all the Runic cards. And another thing that I really, really like is when you go for Galatea, you can make Dingirso, obviously, on top of it. You move it to the main monster zone, you unlock your extra monster zone, which is so important. So yeah, there's the 3 Mseti, 1 Happy, 1 that I forgot the name of, I apologize, 2 King Sarcophagus, your Orcust engine, which for the first time right now, we're seeing Girsu together with Harp, fun fact. 2 Orchestra Return, your normal ratios of Runic cards, 1 Called By, which I guess, yeah, you draw into it, sure. And you also have Talents and the mandatory Crescendo. And as for the side deck, it's just a lot of hand traps. Right now, we're seeing a lot of DD Crow, Ghost Bell, and also back for removal. So, okay. This Labyrinth list, first of all, shout out Victor. Congrats on doing so well. I'm really happy for you. So let's take a look at your deck list. It seems like the Ryan Yu deck list. It's very, very similar. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it, So I'm not against it. Like, it's literally just the basic ratios, but you want to see your furniture and you want to see your Arias together with your chap cards and all of that, so you want to make it as consistent as possible. There's different versions of playing it. There's the Rayoch build and all of that, which I'm also not against, but yeah, I feel like this deck just takes a lot of skill to pilot, and the build is fairly basic, but it's definitely going to be apparent who's a good Labyrinth player as opposed to a bad Labyrinth player with similar builds. So yeah, I like it. And as for the side deck, again, we see a lot of hand traps, and DDG, I think, is a really important card right now. And obviously you're able to get to it with your engine, which is nice. So yes, let's move on to the Diabellstar Fire King deck. So I wanted to include a Fire King list. Obviously, there's no support, but Fire King is still able to do well. It's just very similarly to Rescue Ace, a very, very decent mid-range deck with your engine going for a quick XYZ, for destruction via Kirin, negation via Arvata. There's 2 Garunix, 3 Kirin, which can be either 1 Garunix, 3 Kirin or 2 Garunix, 3 Kirin. There's also Fenrir, which I think is really nice. 1 Diabellstar is just a tiny bit not confusing. I think it's better to have consistency. I would opt for playing more. I would go for like 2 or 3. I think that's pretty much mandatory at this point. But other than that, a very standard Fire King list. So here we have Orcust Horus Tearlament. So similar to what we saw before, but there's also the little Orcust package, which you can get to, by milling your cards. So that's pretty much the idea of the deck. You see Dingirsu, as well as Crescendo and the Galatea. For your Orcust combo, Gamesio, which is really important. Super Poly in the main deck. Yeah, I think that's fine. Like, usually your tier decks would be going for all engine, but Super Poly is really strong right now, and Gamesio functions as part of engine and non-engine, which is nice. And then we also have the winning list from Oklahoma Regional, where Manodium managed to win. I think that's really cool. That deck was always kind of like just outshined by other combo decks, but right now it's at the forefront, and I think that's just so nice. It's a very standard build, but again, like, if you know that something is working, I wouldn't try and make it worse by changing it. I like the ratio of 2 Reichphobia and 2 Arrival with 3 of the Scareclaw and 2 Visas. I think that's nice. And also the other Visas. It's just really good for you know, kind of baiting stuff for follow-up and all of that. And in the same, I guess, mindset, also playing to Scareclaw, Link 1 is important in my opinion. So yes, you have a lot of different field spells. Pelerino is the only debatable one. Some people play it, some don't. And as for the, what's it called, reframing, also there are builds that don't play it, which I understand, but I don't know, I think it's a good card, and I think it's worth running it. There is 43 cards in this deck, so you could trim it down if you want. You want to cut reframing and Pelerino and maybe something else and play clean 40, that's also an option, but I don't think it's a bad list at all. So yeah, I think that's it. No, it's not. We also have a Marincess list. So okay, yeah, Marincess got top 8. I don't know. I always say the deck is not that great, but again, like, if someone knows what they are doing and they have a really good event, it makes sense. And this is a very standard build, a lot of non-engine, which Marincess is known for, 3 droplet, and I really like the Zealantis. Obviously, by now we all know the Waterlock. And yeah, that's actually it. We got back to the Vanquisher list from before, so that's going to be the last deck on today's video. In today's video. And yeah, if you enjoyed, please let me know. I really love doing these videos where we talk about deck lists and see what people play, find out about interesting techs and decks, like the Horus pile with PK and dangers and all of that. That was really cool. So share your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if you're maybe going to be building any of these decks. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.